Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Stephanie Pellet. I am a creative business coach and consultant for small business owners and entrepreneurs here in Toronto. And this is Ask Steph. This is my video show where I answer all of your business questions about everything from logistics to systems to branding to sneaky limiting beliefs. And if you have a question for me, you can always ask it over at stephaniepellet.com/ask. So let's get into today's question. Our question today is, hi Steph, I'm writing to ask for some advice on procrastination. I have this awesome idea that I'd love to execute in my business, but I just can't seem to make it happen. If I'm being really honest, I'm a little scared to make it happen. This is something I've never done before, and I just can't seem to shake the feeling that I'm not good enough to put it out there. What do I do? How do I break through these fears and actually get things done? Thanks for any help you can provide. Sincerely, perfectionistic procrastinator. Yeah, I've been there. I have been there. This is an amazing question because it is something that all of us are going to deal with at some point in our lives and businesses. Let me introduce you to the concept of resistance. This comes from The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, which is an incredible book that I recommend to almost all of my clients because I have found it so valuable in my own life in figuring out how to get out of my own way and actually show up to do the work that I was meant to do in this world. So he introduces resistance as the sneaky forms of self-sabotage that we partake in anytime we're trying to go from a lower level of life to a higher one. So this could be anything, creating a new exercise routine or trying to develop a meditation habit. Or of course, there are so many ways that this appears in our business lives as well. So anytime we're trying to write a blog post, even get on Instagram stories, or something much bigger like launching a new product or service, chances are resistance is going to be right there alongside us, whispering in our ear terrible things about ourselves that try to hold us back from doing that work. Sounds pretty horrible, right? It's absolutely the force that we need to reckon with in order to get our work done. The first step in defeating resistance is learning how to recognize it. The problem is that there are about as many forms that resistance can take as there are people in the world. Because if you think about it, this force is specifically trying to prevent you from doing your most important work. And so the strategies it's going to use are going to be tailored to your personality and your biggest fears about yourself. That being said, there are a few forms that it commonly takes. The first is, of course, procrastination. So why our letter writer is writing into us in the first place. Procrastination, stalling, starting a project and then getting up and leaving again, that's definitely guaranteed resistance. Also, we have imposter syndrome or self-doubt, that negative self-talk that happens in our heads telling us that we're not good enough or we don't know enough or who are we to be the ones to offer this thing to the world. Definitely resistance. And then of course, there are some more innocent looking strategies that actually are resistance in action. So one of them might be filling up our calendars to the brim and staying way too busy so we can never actually work on that novel we've been looking at for 3 years. Another form that we might not think about is actually getting sick. You might know people like this who every time they're right on the brink of something, all of a sudden they develop some kind of sickness. And it's not fake necessarily. It might just be their body kicking in their fear response, deciding to stop them from doing that last 5% of a project that would be so crucial in getting their work out into the world. You can see that resistance is pretty insidious. It's a sneaky force and it's going to do anything it can to stop us from doing what we need to do in the world. So how do we fight it? I have a few strategies that I think will help you if you're battling resistance and procrastination that comes along with it. Number 1, develop a consistent routine. So Steven Pressfield, in his book, The War of Art, describes a technique for battling resistance, and it's very simple. Sit down at the same time every day and know that it's time to get to work. When we have a consistent routine, it's a lot easier to battle the forces of resistance because we know that no matter what, we're still going to show up again tomorrow and keep working on what we're doing. This is part of a larger concept that Steven Pressfield calls turning pro, which I highly recommend reading his book to learn more about. But I wanted to read you one passage that I thought was very helpful. He says that the most important thing about art is to work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying. Why is this so important? Because when we sit down day after day and keep grinding, something mysterious starts to happen. Unseen forces enlist in our cause and serendipity reinforces our purpose. Basically, he's saying that when we show up every single day, the muse, as he calls it, or inspiration, starts to come to our aid. It starts to help out because it knows that we're serious about the task at hand. This is a great way to battle resistance because it means that no matter what, we are being consistent, we are showing up, and sooner or later, we are going to start to get some help from mysterious forces outside of our control to help us complete the project. So whatever you do, no matter what kind of creative work you're doing, no matter what kind of business you run, the most important thing is to stick to some kind of schedule that will allow you to show up day after day and work on the projects that are hardest to manage. Number 2, accept your resistance as an inevitable part of your business journey and speak directly to it. So here's the truth. If we're working on something that's really close to our soul's purpose, it's probably going to be challenging. It's probably going to bring up all of our demons, all of our limiting beliefs, all of our resistance. So we need to kind of accept that it's going to be a player. It's going to be involved in any project that we're working on that we feel really passionately about. Accepting that from the get-go and making decisions accordingly is actually a really great way to avoid the procrastination and other kinds of self-sabotage that we might otherwise enact if we aren't aware of it. So being aware of it and speaking directly to it is a really great technique for managing it. So one technique that I like to use for this comes from Big Magic, which is Liz Gilbert's book all about creativity and fear. And she describes the creative journey as a kind of road trip that you're taking. You and creativity and fear are all in the car together. But there's a big difference. She says that creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. And there's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so make yourself at home. But understand this. Creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect that you are part of this family, but still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat and you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. I think this is so crucial. When we can really differentiate ourselves from the forces of fear and resistance that are trying to stop us, it allows us to say, okay, I'll listen to you, but I'm not going to let you control me. And having that awareness might be the very thing you need to stop procrastinating on that project and start moving forward with what you're trying to create. Number 3, don't be so selfish. Okay, I know that sounded a little catty, so I'm sorry. But what I mean is when we're procrastinating on our big dreams, we're really making it all about ourselves. We're not really thinking about the people that we're here to serve. And that can actually be a really great way to get out of our own heads, get out of our own way, and actually start to bring this project to fruition. So chances are, whatever project that you're procrastinating on right now is something that might help somebody else. Maybe it's a piece of writing that is beautiful and might resonate with someone's soul. Maybe it's a product or service that you think is going to make all the difference in someone's life. Whatever the case might be, it's really important to remember that you're not just creating it for yourself. John Green has this beautiful quote that says, "Make gifts for people." And that's what he sees all of his books as, gifts for other people. If we can see our own work as a gift for somebody else, it will help us to stop being so selfish about the process. Does it matter if you feel like an imposter? Does it matter if you feel so busy all the time? No. What matters is whether or not you can make a difference in somebody else's life and you can actually deliver the thing that you know will help them. Keeping that in mind has saved me time and time again from procrastinating on projects that I really know could help somebody else. Number 4, talk about it to somebody that you trust. Brené Brown has this great quote that says, "Shame cannot survive being spoken," and I like to think that resistance can't survive being spoken either. When we talk about our resistance and our fears to somebody who really gets it and who has been there before, the forces of resistance have a way of just disappearing in front of our eyes. Maybe not forever, but at least for long enough for us to sit down and maybe get back to work. When we know that people who are further along in their journeys have dealt with and still deal with these same fears and limiting beliefs, it makes it a little bit easier to look at them with a bit more disdain. We know that they're lies. We know that they're designed to just hold us back and aren't necessarily true. So surrounding yourself with a community of people, whether that is one business bestie or a whole group of individuals who understand what you are dealing with, is a crucial step in battling your resistance. Having a group text that you can say, "Hey, I'm really struggling today to actually sit down and put my butt in this chair because I'm scared and I don't think I'm good enough to write this or do this or teach this," is going to make all the difference when you get all of those responses back saying that you got this, you're amazing, and you can do it. So surround yourself with a group of people who really get it and you will see the results almost instantly. Number 5, smaller is less scary. So, one of the ways that I like to trick myself into working on a project that I'm a little bit afraid of is to break it down into really, really tiny pieces. I'm talking about things that do not trigger your resistance at all in any way because they seem so far removed from the ultimate thing that you're trying to do. So, for example, if you want to deliver a coaching program online, but that feels so intimidating and scary, maybe your first step is literally just Googling what kinds of software platforms exist to host your course or to host your membership community. That could be a small enough task that it doesn't really trigger you into feeling fear or resistance because it's just so small. It doesn't feel consequential in the grand scheme of things. But no matter what you're working on, there's always going to be a tiny version of that task that really doesn't get your hackles up. If you're having trouble writing something, for example, maybe all you need to do is refamiliarize yourself with the ideas that you're going to be talking about. Open up the document, sit down at your computer. Sometimes it's like exposure therapy that helps us get past our walls of resistance. Whatever it is, whatever you're working on, try to find the tiniest version of that task that will make you feel a sense of accomplishment, but does not make you feel afraid. That way, if you stack up enough of those tasks, you will eventually get to the ultimate outcome that you're looking for, but without feeling as scared at every stage along the journey. And number 6, remember that not all procrastinating is procrastinating. Sometimes it's marinating. So remember that in the creative process, sometimes we're legitimately procrastinating out of fear, and other times we're procrastinating because the idea is not fully formed yet. We need more time. We need more creative juices to be stewing around in our brains whenever we're doing other tasks to start to come together into a cohesive picture. So if you're sitting at your computer and you really want to be working on something, but the ideas are just not flowing to you, that's a little bit of a different beast. In that case, I would say take a break, go for a walk, take a shower, have a nap. You will be surprised at how incredibly easily your ideas will probably flow to you after you've had a little bit more time to think about them. So this last tip is just to remind you not to confuse procrastination with the occasional creative marination time that we require to create something brand new. Don't get it twisted and don't get down on yourself if you're having trouble banging something out. Maybe just take a step back and give yourself a little bit of space, and the ideas and the answer might come to you very soon. So there you have it, 6 strategies for combating the sneaky forces of resistance that try to hold us back from achieving our most important creative dreams. I would love to hear from you. Have you battled resistance before? Spoiler alert, yes, you probably have. And if so, what techniques have worked for you in helping you push past those voices, those fears, those limiting beliefs, and actually get your most important work done? I would love to hear. Let me know in the comments below. And if you have a question for me, you can always ask over at stephaniepellet.com/ask, or again in the comments underneath this video. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.